So, I don't know how often you're using hand sanitizer at the moment. I hope that you're using it a lot, basically all the time, whenever you go anywhere. But are you sure that the sanitizer you use is actually the right stuff and that it actually does the job? It actually sanitizes your hands and protects you from COVID-19. Dr. Abdullahi Ahmed Yusuf is a senior lecturer of entomology at the University of Pretoria's Department of Zoology and Entomology. Dr. good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time, Dr. Yusuf. I mean, you conducted a big survey of hand sanitizers that you buy, well, anywhere. What did you find?
Good afternoon, Steve, and good afternoon to the viewers and listeners. So we did this survey looking at 50 different products of hand sanitizers, and what we found was very nerve-breaking in terms of quality. So most of the sanitizers do not contain the recommended amount of alcohol that they need to be effective against viruses. And then most of them were also not labeled or not labeled properly according to local standards as well as the WHO standard, which required that each hand sanitizer or hand rub, as a technical term is, should be labeled appropriately with the type of alcohol that it contains, the amount, and the time of manufacture.
So, I mean, a lot of it, are you suggesting, I think that the level is 70% alcohol, hand sanitizer is supposed to be 70% alcohol. Most of the time, are you suggesting the level was below that?
Yes, most of the time, unfortunately, the level was below that.
What impact would this sanitizer have then? Would it still clean your hands, or would it just be useless? Would it be like washing it with water?
It will just, it will be useless. It will be like a cosmetic. You know, any alcohol sanitizer which does not contain the required amount of alcohol to be able to penetrate the virus to lipid layer, it's not virucidal, so it's rather a cosmetic.
Dr. Yusuf, I'm almost scared to ask this question. If it's not alcohol that's in it, what are people putting in the stuff they claim is sanitizer?
Well, the thing is that most of it have alcohol, but it does not have the required amount of alcohol in it. So we found, I found as low as 2% of alcohol in some of the hand sanitizers instead of at least 70 or 70%.
2%, sure. Alcohol is relatively cheap to make, particularly this kind of alcohol. Why do you think this is happening? Are people trying to cut costs? I don't know if they'll really be able to do that. Are they just trying to are they just trying to do something? Are they just not able to do it properly?
It could be both. It could be trying to cut costs, because if you are required to put in between 70 to 80 or 85% of alcohol in a hand sanitizer, and then you chop off 10 or 20%, that's like 10 or 20% more profit there. And if you are not trained to do it properly, because after the advent of after the hard lockdown, many manufacturers went into producing alcohol hand sanitizers. Some are not accredited to do it.
Is it deliberate then? Are you saying that people have done this deliberately? They know they're doing the wrong thing?
Well, from the perspective that I stand, I cannot say why they do it, but I could just report what I found, which is unfortunate, which calls for more monitoring. And I think you and also the listeners and viewers should had maybe one time or the other had observed hand sanitizers that when you go and spray it on your hands, you actually know that thing does not contain any alcohol or anything else, but they just have to spray it for you to get into the shop or to sit in the restaurant. Yeah.
So how do I know? I mean, if the stuff's on my hands, how do I know? I mean, do I have to smell it? Has it got a particular smell? Well, I mean, I can't imagine there's much difference between 70% and 50%.
There is not much difference, but for those of us who work in the lab or those who are exposed to alcohol, you could feel if something is 70% or more. So that's now where the book falls onto the regulatory agencies to actually put some regulation in place, because the consumer, on the other hand, is thinking that he is getting a product that is protecting him or her because he has no control over it, right?
Was it difficult for you to do these tests? And I ask that because I mean, I know, for example, police officers can test your breath pretty quickly. They can tell if you've been driving under the influence. So can you do that with hand sanitizer? I mean, could you have every police officer having a test kit with them because there's so much hand sanitizer about? Or is it more difficult than that?
It's more difficult than that, but this test, as of now, this test can only be done in laboratories like the ones we have at the University of Pretoria. So for us, working on this is like routine, because the study has two parts. One of the part is coming up with or optimizing a method that has been there to be very rapid, in that it could detect up to 7 different alcohols within 11 minutes. So in the lab, it's a very routine test. But out there, we're not yet at the level where you could do it. So it will entail regulatory authorities either stemming it from the manufacturer's point, making sure that every batch that leaves the factory, it's substandard, or doing some random checks in the shops.
And Dr. Yusuf, I hope you don't mind me asking, but I realize you're an entomologist. I had to sort of scratch my head a bit and ask my younger son, but an entomologist is someone who studies insects for a living. Are you from the social insects group I see on your background?
Yeah.
How did you end up being the one going to do this?
No, so actually there are different types of entomologists. So I am an entomologist who work on insect, but my work on insect is looking at chemical communication. So I am what is called a chemical ecologist. So in my own field of expertise, we tend to look at the chemicals that insects use to communicate. So I train as an analytical chemist, which is typically doing this type of job. So in my day-to-day job, what I do is trying to look at how chemicals influence the behavior of insects.
Sure, that is fascinating. Well, I'll call him an entomologist, but I'm going to call him a chemical ecologist because it sounds cooler. Dr. Abdullahi Ahmed Yusuf, thanks very much indeed. A senior lecturer in entomology at the University of Pretoria, the Department of Zoology and Entomology there.